How is everybody today? Huge welcome to Spawn Fly Fish here in Ilwaco, Washington, where the flies are hot and the water is frigid. Get a little nasty out there, but that's okay. More time to tie flies. So, in the vise today, we have the Ahrex FW555, size 10 for the bead. We're looking at the Spawn slotted tungsten football bead, 5.5 millimeter in black. And for the weighted wire, I have some lead-free 0.020, 6 wraps just to keep that bead happy and in place. So I'm going to get some thread started here, some 6/0 black. 140D, definitely work, any of that good stuff. So what we're going to tie today is a little play on the Alexandra. And I know some of you have probably read about this fly, maybe even seen it called the Alexandria, and most commonly though referred to as the Alexandra. And in parts of the UK, this fly at one point was banned. You want to know why? Because it worked really well, too well. So cool fly. I've tied a bunch of different variations of this bug. It is one of my favorite flies as far as a searching pattern. And so thought I'd come up with another one for these winter cold months, something fun to tie, but something that if you do get the chance to go out, it's going to catch fish. So that's kind of the point of why we go, right? All right, let's get into it. So red tail is very common here in the Alexandra. And what I've got today, this will be fun too. I've got a single Schlappen feather. And so I want to tie the tail and collar out of this single feather. A little extra bang for your buck, sort of. But if you look at the base of this Schlappen, you see we get into some of this webby material here. That's what I want. I don't really want these fine fibers up here. I want to keep that for the collar. I want a little bit more oomph, if you will, or bang for my buck, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to strip out a small section of that webby Schlappen. And there we have it. Gnarly, right? So now we're close to like short marabou, essentially. All right, a little bit better than one hook length. Transfer that to my off tying hand, and we can get that tied in. 1 or 2 soft wraps there. That's a goofy little fiber trying to move on me. There we go. Now we've got that fiber. There we go. Undaunted, all of you. Don't fear that little feather. So the trim here is roughly right behind the weighted wire, so that as I continue tying down these butt sections, I can keep that underbody nice and even all the way. All right, pretty straightforward there. If you need this tail to be completely even, a little trim, ta-da, nothing to it. All right, so now let's get a rib in here. And for the rib today, I've got some ultra wire, size medium, color red. If you have some uni soft wire, that'd be great. Large or medium would work. And on this one, if you have brassy red, that will work as well. All right, really solidify that wire. And then we're going to stay up here near the bead, and we're going to tie in our body, so to speak. And for the body, I'm going bright, right? So I'm going to exclude flash in this fly, since the body is essentially all flash. So this is saltwater Flashabou, holographic silver. I'm going to tie this in right behind the bead. And so this is kind of backwards as to how we normally tie all our materials in. But as we go, this will make sense. All right, super glue gel, one of my favorite things in the world. Just a little bit is all you need. Very small amount. All right, so now what we're going to do is simply wrap in touching wraps. And I use that term loosely because if for some reason you miss a wrap here, don't undo and stress. Just keep going, and you'll see why. All right, so now we're on top of that wire. And if this were anything but flash, yes, I would take a wrap behind the wire. But since it's flash, we're just going to leave it as is and continue. And on the way back up, we're on to, slightly overwrapping passes or you know, a little bit better than touching wraps. All right, get that solidified, thread in front of it, no issues. And now let's simply trim that piece of Flashabou out of there. Voila. All right, so now let's get this wire into play. And we're simply looking, you know, 4 to 5 evenly spaced wraps here, moving forward, and put some tension on there on the way down. Really make sure that wire is seated, right? So there's no chenille or anything to grab it. So it's going to be up to you. Make those wraps count. All right, this is where we're really going to strengthen that wire positioning, if you will, is bringing the wire back over itself. And then nice clean cut. Push that wire down and catch that little trimmed area with your thread. If you do that, now your wire can't move on you. Good to go. All right, so now you see we have plenty of room for this little thoracic region. However, let's do something a little bit fun before we get there. So Peacock sword, right? Not used a ton anymore. However, for those of you that do use it, this is an amazing, amazing product. You see one side's got a little bit more blue, one side's a little bit more green, and it's just a very iridescent fiber that has so much color and glints of flash coming off as it moves through the water. Underrated, underutilized product, if you ask me. So all I want to do here is create this little faux wing, right? And so I'm just going to get this tied in on the top, if you will, but I want the ends of it to come about halfway back on that tail. I don't want to cover it all, but I do want to cover some. All right, let's get this tied in with a couple of loose wraps, and then we'll check our work, make sure we're staying on top, and we are. And that's great. So that's where I want that wing. And by holding it up, we'll support it and get it to stay somewhat up without riding all the way flat on the dorsal side of this fly. All right, so this is the fun part here. Take your time, be careful. You don't want to start chopping if you can't see what you're cutting. But carefully remove any of those little butt sections there, and then come in with your thread and clean that up a little. Very little. All right, so let's get back to the Schlappen feather. At this point, I will trim the tip out. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for where the fibers reach. Try to do it on your side. All the way back. And if they do, great. That's all I need. Done. Now, if I'm tying a dozen of these for sale, right? Now I want to kind of pre-measure some stuff, make sure all my feathers are the same so that when I tie them in, it's all the same length. But I'm just tying one of these, so no stress. Here's the weird part for this collar. So we're going over the eye and tie it in like so. And I'm looking so that the concave, or that underside of the feather, is looking upward, so that when we wrap this, all the good stuff showing forward and out. And while that might sound weird to some of you, the more you do this, the more that verbiage becomes just common, and no way around it. The best way to learn is to just be exposed to it and spend some time in it. All right, so these little fibers here are not meant to be part of that. There we go. And now they're not part of that. So that's how tricky that is. All right, for this thorax then, I've got more Peacock. This is simply Peacock Herl from an eyed stick from hairline. And I've got 3 pieces here. I'm going to tie in all 3 at the same time. Be mindful of that Schlappen. It wants to play, and you got to let it know it's not time yet. And there we are, all the way back to where our body ended, and that's important. And now carefully trim out those butt ends without cutting any of the Schlappen fibers. There's most of it, and there's the rest. Got to. And if these fibers are a nuisance, which they're becoming, little moisture on the fingertips, and slick them back like so. Now it's out of the way, and I can continue tying. So I'm going to take all 3 of these Peacock Herls, spin them up all together. And now we're creating essentially one noodle. See that one break off? So now we're down to 2. That's why we started with 3. All right, let's wrap this bad boy. No harm, no foul. And try to get one more twist in there. There we go. And let's tie this off like so. And leave plenty of room for that collar and a tie off. So there's a lot going on here for a little size 10 jig hook, but don't be nervous. You all have been watching along here and playing along, so you know what to do. This is nothing crazy. So at this point, I will bring that feather back and get my thread in front of that feather. And this is why, because now we're going to wrap our collar. We don't want that thread to bump or get in our way. This is already looking great. So this is going to finish off our attractor fly, right? And so you've got there we go. There's one fiber there, but we're going to eliminate it by the time we tie this off. So you got the natural attraction from all this peacock. So we have both peacock herl off of an eyed stick, and we have peacock sword. So all that beautiful coloration, fish catching prowess, if you will, that is peacock. So then you combine that with some flash in the body with that Flashabou, and then red. I mean, talk about successful. This is it. If you were to draw up, hey, I wonder what a successful searching pattern would look like. I bet you AI would have trouble beating this pattern. So keep that in mind. Don't have to go super crazy to find something that's incredibly successful. So now I'm just going to prune that ever so slightly and get it coated with some head cement. We are ready to go and throw this thing in the water. All right. Little Loon, hard head clear. I'm going to just cover all these thread wraps very quickly, and I will try to get this fly wet for you guys so you can see the finished effect. And there we go. Nothing to it. All right. Let's see if we can pop this little guy out of here. Tiny. So I'm just using my whip finisher there. A little pinch. Excuse my arm for a second. Hard to get this thing wet, but there we go. It's kind of like if you're imagining, you know, sometimes you throw like a caddis pupa in the water, and it really gets all those fibers slicked down and around. So this is what you're going to be looking at as it's stripped, right? And then as it is in the pause, all these fibers release and breathe. And good luck getting the fish not to eat that. That's all I'm going to say. Challenge I'm going to issue to you is find a fish that won't eat that. All right, guys. Had fun with this one today. Hope you did too. If you did, by all means, please hit like, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you all on the water.